This week on Houston Newsmakers, the state's largest school district welcomes students back to school. That means more than 200,000 students and more than 27,000 employees will be hard at work trying to give our students the best education possible. But how difficult will that be with the district seemingly in turmoil? Board members going at each other. Texas Education Agency going after HISD, and HISD now suing the state. I'll talk to HISD's interim superintendent. The fight against human trafficking continues to be one of the biggest challenges this community faces. It's a worldwide problem, and that's why the Children at Risk organization is going around the world to help expose the issues it creates. President Bob Sanborn is here to talk about how advocates can see the horrific conditions. And 2 years after Harvey, the progress being made toward complete recovery. Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo talks about the increase in efforts to mitigate future hurricane-related problems.
From KPRC Channel 2, this is Houston Newsmakers with Khambrel Marshall.
Good morning and welcome to Houston Newsmakers, and my special guest to start things off, Dr. Grenita Lathan, the interim superintendent of the Houston Independent School District. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
School starts tomorrow. Are you ready?
Yes, most definitely. Team HISD is ready.
You looked almost insulted when I asked you were you ready.
Was a little, no.
But you are all summer long, all year round. You prepare for this first date. What's the most important thing to get things off to a good start?
Oh, most definitely communicating with parents about school start and end times, bus locations as far as the bus transportation stops, uniforms, school supplies. But at the end of the day, we are just excited that we're going to welcome over 209,000 students from the city of Houston on Monday.
There are no shortage to challenges in HISD, classroom as well, but outside the classroom, let's talk about a few of them. You were eagerly awaiting not long ago the Texas Education Agency's accountability rating, which gave the district an 88 or B, which is a good rating considering what's been going on here. Cause for celebration, the Kashmir got out of the category of improvement required, but Wheatley failed to get a D grade, and that sets in motion the law that gives a TEA the ability to appoint new board members. Your reaction to the accountability ratings and the result of that?
So overall, like I said, as a district, we did receive a B. Very pleased at how we were able to perform last year. You know, being 2 years out of Harvey and the setbacks we experienced from 2017, I'm excited. I'm excited that Kashmir High School was able to shed that improvement required status. And Kashmir shedded that status with a C. I want to make sure everyone is aware. And as it relates to Wheatley High School, Wheatley actually earned a D, but based on rules, they receive what they call a forced failure, which automatically classifies them as an F-rated school. We will continue to support Wheatley. There is no plan from me as a superintendent to make a recommendation that we close Wheatley High School down. We're going to add additional resources. In fact, we've already done that. Around core content classes like English and math and science, we're staffing extra teachers there this year. In the event that a teacher leaves, we will already have someone on site to step in.
Do you think that that will stave off the TEA, which according to the law could step in and make changes not only to Wheatley but to the whole school board? I
don't know. Like I said, I know there's a state statute that says that this has triggered House Bill 1842, and so while that plays out with whatever decisions TEA has to make, I still have to be prepared tomorrow to welcome 209,000 students.
Education has become a significant political issue these days, it seems. I mean, we were talking, once upon a time, it was just about getting the kids in and let's educate them. Now it's a big political thing. There's some who have been arguing for closing some of the schools or removing some of the district representatives. They say that, you know, you could have brought in outside help to get those specific schools the help they needed and get some extra money, but the district decided not to do that. Any regrets about that as far as you know?
Well, we have provided additional supports. We've provided outside assistance. We've provided tutoring and enrichment support. I think what people on the outside fail to understand is for a number of years, some of our underserved schools and schools of high poverty, we did not provide the resources that they needed. And so we're playing catch up now. And just like Kashmir High School, it's taken several years for us to build the momentum academically and culturally annually to get that school to where it is now. We will get it done, as I shared with the community last week and shared with the Wheatley High School staff this past Wednesday. We will be celebrating at Wheatley High School next year on August the 15th, 2020.
Well, I will give you one thing. You always have that positive attitude from a long time ago. You've been saying we will. And let's look at the grading of the last breakdown, the accountability ratings. 135 schools, A or B, 86 schools received C's, 29 minimum for passing grade of D, 21 schools getting that failing grade. What is your challenge with that failing grade, those schools that are failing? Because I know that you have said and many times that it's not acceptable to have any in that category. It's
not acceptable, and what I've shared with our leadership team is, all those schools that are D's and F's, we need to move them to C or higher. And so we've looked at those 21 schools, and I want to point out that 5 of those 21s are the forced failures. So they technically, on paper, earned a D, but like I said, based on those rules, they're classified as an F. But we've looked at all 21 of those campuses and additional campuses that we call Achieve 180, where we provide those additional supports. We've looked at their master schedules. We've looked at teacher assignments. We've coordinating their professional development. We're looking at support for second language learners, just ensuring that we have everything in place to ensure that those schools and those staff, the principals and teachers will be help their students be successful this year. And I want people to know it's a daily discussion. We don't just wait until August for scores to be released. We've started analyzing. We actually do it all year long. Every time we have a set of assessments and information, we're making the necessary adjustments. Some schools, we just need to make additional adjustments.
And while you're focusing on the education part in some areas, all around you, there's this other stuff that's going on. HISD's now filed a lawsuit against the TEA, accusing it of conducting a, quote, one-sided investigation that reached conclusions unsupported by any credible evidence. It also claims the TEA was determined from the outset to oust the HISD board, that the TEA intends to punish the district, and that the TEA is violating the Civil Rights Act by only replacing school boards in districts where a majority of residents are people of color. As interim superintendent, what is your role in that suit? What is the hope for in the outcome other than stopping the TEA from replacing the school board?
I have no role in that lawsuit. That lawsuit was brought on by the Board of Education.
Okay.
And so my role as an employee and as a leader of the district is to focus on teaching and learning.
So when you say the Board of Education, that's the board that sits up there and fights around you during the board meetings on a regular basis?
Yes, the Board of Education.
Okay, and they are the ones who hire you and determine if you're going to be the superintendent other than interim. And also, by the way, as long as we're talking about that, they have talked about, even on their board, they have talked about their own board being separated ideology by race. You've seen that playing out around you in terms of the accusations. How do you deal with that, all of that's going on, and convince parents and students that that's not getting in the way of the kids getting the education they need?
And I think based on our academic performance, parents can see that. There are some things that do get in the way, but what I tell our principals and our teachers and all of our staff members, including my cabinet members, let me handle the issues that are going on as it relates to what's happening with the Board of Education, and they are to be focused on the daily work of teaching children. And so we try to keep that away from our schools, away from our principals, and away from our parents. So what I tell parents in that reassurance is connect with your school, connect with the school that your child is in, connect with your principal, connect with the teachers there, and put their energy into ensuring that their school is the best school, and allow me and others to do what we need to do on behalf of the entire district.
Why do you continue to do this?
Because I've been called to serve and to lead, and my performance and my track record is proving that I can serve and I can lead.
Well, you read the report the TA put out. I know some of their accusations were that some of the board met away from the site to go ahead and get somebody else to take your place. That doesn't impact the way that you focus on your job?
It doesn't impact me because I know who I am and to whom I've been called and to whom I belong. And so it doesn't have to impact me. And people make decisions to do whatever they choose to do. My decision is to lead with dignity and to focus on all students in our district.
Dr. Lathan, thank you for being here. You know that we always get together. We have much more to talk about than what we have here, so we're going to do that. She's agreed to stick around for Newsmakers Extra. We've got more to discuss. Go to click2houston.com under the news heading. Click on Newsmakers for more. Thanks again, Dr. Lathan.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Just ahead, the problem of human trafficking is a big one here in Houston, but also around the world. a children at risk organization, has been on the front lines in the fight against it locally and now taking the fight around the world. President and CEO Bob Sanborn here to talk about that when Houston Newsmakers continues.
There was one boy, they wanted him to work as a beggar, but he didn't look pitiful enough, so they cut off both his arms and then set him on the side of the road so people would feel sorry for him and give him money.
Unless we're prepared to look at the darkness within our own soul and then have a look at the condition in our world that caused it, then we're never going to be able to progress and grow.
That was a clip from a documentary released a couple of years ago that took a disturbing but revealing look at the horrors of trafficking across the world. Bob Sanborn is president and CEO of Children at Risk here in Houston. He knows all about what that film portrayed. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
What do you want people to know about the kind of impact that trafficking has, not only in Houston, but other parts of the world as well?
Yeah, I think one of the things we want is greater awareness. People need to understand that, yes, we are one of the centers for trafficking in Houston, but it's happening all over the world. I mean, young girls, young boys, children are being exploited, and a lot of it's this demand, right? There are men around the world that are demanding these sexual exploits of these young children, and so we really want to bring greater awareness on the victims, but also on solutions.
This whole problem is so rampant, and it's interesting to note how many different industries pop up and flourish because of human trafficking. Talk about the kinds of things that Children at Risk has been doing to try to put a spotlight on some of those issues.
Yeah, so over the last 10 years, we've really raised awareness in our state. And in terms of legislation, we've passed over 60 pieces of legislation, including mandating training for law enforcement, creating a statewide task force run by the Attorney General, then Greg Abbott, up to recently where we just mandated that school board trustees and superintendents will have to be trained in the area of trafficking because it impacts so many children. That focus on those solutions and becoming, having people become much more aware has really helped us a lot. But what we find is that in many other states and in many other countries, they aren't as aware in terms of what they need to do. And we have a long way to go here, but the fact of the matter is that when you have public officials and the law enforcement on your side, you're going to be able to make a lot more progress. What we aim to do with this next project is to go around the world, bring activists, would-be activists, people who want to see what's happening with us around the world, with the film crew, the same crew that we just saw this film from, and really bring, again, a lot of awareness to what's happening in the world.
You know, and I'm going to put at least the clip from that film. We saw a clip at the beginning of the kinds of things here from the movie Stopping Traffic, and it shined a light, so to speak, on the horror of human trafficking and how it impacts thousands of people in countries around the world. Now, with this as a backdrop, you're in the partnership, you said, with these producers, you're going to be going around the world. 10 trips to 4 different countries or more countries. I know that you're taking 2 different 10-day trips. That's what I know. So talk about how many people can go, who can go, what it costs, and what do you hope to come out?
So we're going to 5 cities. So we're starting in Houston, we're going to Manila, we're going to Mumbai in India, we're going to Budapest, we're going to Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. And the idea is these are all central hubs for trafficking. And so we're going to go to these cities, we're going to spend time, we're visiting with organizations that are on the ground fighting trafficking. Sometimes people have not even visited these countries. We're going to get to see a few sites, right, see what's going on in these cities. But the focus is really looking at what's going on there, bringing our expertise in terms of solutions, but more importantly, looking at what their expertise says in terms of solutions, what ideas can we bring back. But the idea is with this film crew, with others that come on the trip, to really grow awareness via social media, via the documentary, and really get people to understand what's happening in our world and begin to start acting against what's happening.
So let's say somebody like me or somebody who is an advocate here would go with you on this trip. You would hope they would come back to be invigorated, to be more energetic, and maybe one of your foot soldiers, so to speak.
Yeah, and we have people from all over the country coming as well. But yes, we want everyone to be a foot soldier in the fight for children, and in this case, a foot soldier in the fight to end trafficking. And we think that this trip is going to really help a lot. And it's going to be interesting, right? I mean, no doubt, going around the world is fun and it's intellectually stimulating. But the fact that we get to meet with these organizations, and they're super excited that we're coming. I mean, they want to meet Americans that are engaged in the fight. And they they're really welcoming of us, and they want to show us around. And the people in Addis Ababa, I was talking to some people yesterday, they really want to show us, no one goes to Ethiopia, they want to show us around, but they want to show us, what sort of specific things are happening in those countries and on those continents, in Asia and Africa and Europe, that we can really have an impact on.
How many people are going to go? What capacity do you have for going, and how much does it cost? What do they need to do if they want to be involved in this?
So if they're interested, if they just want to figure out what's going on, just info@childrenAtRisk.org is the easiest way to go. It's about, for each leg, it's about $5,000. The people from River Oaks Travel are doing it pro bono for us. They're helping us out. So we're going to have great accommodations. River Oaks Travels, you're going to do great accommodations, but for about $5,000, you're going to be able on each leg to go to these cities, to volunteer, to become engaged, and we think it's going to be very, very enlightening.
Do you have organizations that are helping sponsor people, individuals? Because $5,000, somebody not necessarily have that, but if an organization in a community is doing various things, that would be money well spent, theoretically, for somebody to go and get the knowledge that they need, firsthand knowledge.
Yeah, we have people that are searching for funding from foundations, from their churches, and that's a great way to be able to do that. And we'll work with some people on some of this as well. But the key thing for me, Khambrel, is the awareness of this, right? I think we hear about trafficking, and people have heard a lot about trafficking in Houston, but I think they're not so sure what's happening in the rest of the world. And this gives us an opportunity to see what's going on in the rest of the world. This is going to be a whole world solution to end demand, which is really how you end trafficking. It becomes a change of the culture. How do we change this culture? Boys will be boys, and men should be able to buy sex whenever they want to buy sex, even if it means you're having sex with a 12-year-old or a 14-year-old girl or boy. That needs to change in our society.
You are amazing in what you do. The people who you work with, the Children at Risk, are also amazing. Give them my best. Thank you for what you do in that regard. I'm glad to get the word out for people who can go and become one of your foot soldiers.
Thank you so much, Khambrel. Always good to be here.
Always good to see you. We're going to talk about this time 2 years ago. Coming up, it was about this time that Hurricane Harvey was hammering our region. Some have still not recovered, but County Judge tells me there is good news. Lena Hidalgo talks about the progress made and what's still to come. That's next when Houston Newsmakers continue. County Judge Lena Hidalgo here with me now as we approach the anniversary of Hurricane Harvey, where a lot has been going on. As you took office as well, there was a continuation of a lot of efforts to make sure that we could be more ready than we were before. What's going on in that category?
Folks can see all our updates at readyharris.org. The latest, we sped up our drainage projects. Outside the city of Houston, the county controls the drainage to take the water from the streets to the bayous in the city. That's the city's job. We sped them all up, cut the time by a third, saving us 2 hurricane seasons. We also just recently passed the most stringent detention standards, requiring developers to offset any additional impact of water, displacing water that they may cause when they build.
And what's the benefit of all that? I know that the long-range plans are, when you have that sort of thing, that takes away some of the impact of the water that's trying to drain someplace. When you have those ponds, it makes it a little bit easier and cuts down the flooding?
That's right. It all goes together. So part of it is making sure as we grow, that we grow smart, that we don't worsen the situation for people downstream. So that's what we've done, is using the latest rainfall data, making sure that they're required to offset that displacement of water by creating detention with the right math, including the new rainfall projections. And then, of course, our bayous, our channels, we're widening and deepening, but how do you get the water? We don't want it to get stuck in the storm sewer. And so that's what we're doing on drainage outside of the city of Houston, where the county controls the drainage. There is always a lot of work to do. We're catching up to decades of not enough work being done on this, but we are figuring out how we can do it as fast as possible. And in the process, as we move, wrapping our heads around where will all these projects take us, and then what else will we have to do to meet that gap to where we need to be. That's an ongoing conversation. I
know the voters voted, it was almost a year ago, the voters voted, okay, let's get money for flooding and all that kind of stuff. One of the challenges is being able to spend it. It's there to spend, but there's so many things that have to be done. I know I was talking to one of the Corps of Engineer people saying, wow, we just have to figure out how quickly we can do this. We have the money for it, but sometimes it's physically impossible to do the kind of things we need to get done as soon as we want them to get done.
Of course, something like permitting, for example, we can't get the federal government to move any faster on environmental permits. That kind of situation is but we've worked to find shortcuts, to bring engineers from across the country, and we're still doing independent looks at what else can we do to move even faster. That's why we were able to cut that time by a third, move all the projects together, and continuing to look at how we improve. There is something always that the community can do as we move in that direction to be more resilient, is purchasing flood insurance. That is the #1 thing, and I ask everybody in this community, we live 50 feet above sea level, you should have flood insurance. The links are also on readyharris.org.
Good advice and good news about some of the progress being made as we continue the long road of recovery, and about the preparations put into place, not if, but when another tropical system hits the Houston region. For a more in-depth look at what it all is being done to mitigate the losses in our next storm, I invite you to go to the click2houston.com site and our Newsmakers page, where this week's web story will include a link to the special half-hour Newsmakers program that was all about hurricane and tropical storm preparation and the steps being made to decrease the impact on our region. A look ahead to next week's program and why you won't want to miss it when Houston Newsmakers returns. Next week on Houston Newsmakers, we'll meet another candidate running for Houston mayor, and my other special guest will be first-term Congressman Dan Crenshaw. The representative of the 2nd Congressional District is coming to the final 4 months of his first year of his first term in Congress, and he'll be here to talk about the challenges and triumphs of his first few months and what optimism he may have for the rest of this year and beyond. Thank you for your social media communications with me. You can follow me on Twitter at KPRC2 Khambrel, hashtag HOU Newsmakers, and you've been pretty good about sending subjects or stories you'd like for me to take on through email at HoustonNewsmakers@click2houston.com. My thanks to Dr. Granita Lathan, Dr. Bob Sanborn, and Judge Lena Hidalgo for being my guest this week. Remember, links to the Newsmakers Extra and to the special program on our hurricane readiness and preparation after Harvey can be found on click2houston.com under the news banner. Just click on Newsmakers. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you back here again next week.